when you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times.
No, sir, she didn't go to the ATM. She carried the cash.
For many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house.
So you have no proof of any reimbursement for any of these things because it was all cash, right?
The proof is what I just told you.
That was the cash discussion. As promised, I want to bring in a very special guest for our Georgia coverage tonight. Manny Arora was a defense lawyer to defendant Kenneth Chesebro during his past Georgia RICO trial. He has extensive experience both in this very set of cases as well as more broadly how Georgia cases work. You're busy, a lot going on today. I appreciate you joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Same question to you that Maya and I were just discussing. Did these defense counsel move the ball on disqualification inside the courtroom here this week?
I think you have to look at it from the perspective of which defendants you're talking about. Jack Smith's case, for example, in the federal situation said that the electors in Georgia were sort of duped or schmucks, didn't know what was going on, and therefore they weren't going to be charged, and that was specifically listed in his indictment. In this case, they were charged by Fani Willis, which is in contrast to the federal court. So if I'm one of their lawyers, like Ashley Merchant or somebody else, I would certainly argue that the fact that you hired your boyfriend to handle this stuff, paid him probably what's gotten close to $1 million at this point, and taken as long as it's taken. It's one of the longest, if not the longest, special grand jury in the history of our state, and then indicted all the people that the feds had looked into it for years more than you had. There's a question there to be had. And to me, it doesn't matter if she got a kickback or a free vacation. Emotionally, if you're giving somebody that's not qualified to do a job and paying them this kind of money, that to me stinks to high heaven, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Is that a yes?
Yes, I think they made some progress, but the problem is a lot of the witnesses that they anticipated testifying, I think, are getting scared off, and everybody's sort of fighting the subpoenas. And we learned earlier in the week some of the Confederates for the DA had called out to Terrence Bradley and some of the others, giving him advice on what they think he should do. And if I would have done that, or if your other guests would have done that, we'd all be indicted and under the jail at this point already. So, yeah, I have a lot of problems with things that are going on. And the fact that one witness actually had the courage to go forward and say this is what she saw in the office, there should be about a half a dozen more on the witness list that would do that. But I don't know if they're actually going to come through.
Let's slow you down. Let's slow you down and clarify. What you're saying is your view is that there was some sort of coordination of testimony, and that was coming from the DA side as they try to defend this issue. And you're saying that's the very kind of thing that, not specific to this DA, but prosecutors in general go after. That's what you're saying?
Well, that's what we learned on the court hearing on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, with another witness that was out there. I think Ms. Merchant got him to establish that, yes, I, in fact, called Terrence Bradley, their star witness, as a, quote, fraternity brother, even though they're a decade in age apart, and advised him that he should think about the attorney-client privilege before he testifies. Those are those little kind of hints, and along with the fact that other folks have mentioned that they may have gotten calls, there's a pressure to these folks. That's why everybody's, raising motions to quash. There are consequences to lawyers that would go in there because you have to deal with these people on a daily basis for all your other clients, and you're not going to get the deals that you think you're going to get if you cross the DA. And I've known Ms. Willis, and I don't have any problem with her.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump back in, sir. I mean, you're speaking to what's also a complicated scenario when these kind of motions are flying at the DA's office while they're trying to do their work, and you're mentioning, of course, the authorities they have. I'm only going to keep us moving because I have other highlights to discuss, and then I'm going to have Maya respond as well. But when you mentioned the idea that maybe there was, again, discussions about testimony, we have some of this discussion where, faced with questions about timing, you have certain answers from Wade and Willis. I'm only going to show it. I'm not going to pre-describe it. But let's take a look on what was discussed at one point about the gender of the person doing the remembering.
Forgive me. I'm a man. We don't do the date thing.
He's a man. He probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. The physical relationship ended pre-indictment. I'm sure if you ask Mr. Wade, because he's a male, he would say we ended June or July because physical contact ended then. Just in my mind, being a woman, it's over when you have that hard conversation. I just think women and men think differently.
Manny, what did you think of that testimony about the ending?
I really don't have a perspective on it. I don't care. My whole issue is, why did you hire the person you hired? Why did you pay him so much money when you've got a staff of 7 other lawyers sitting behind you, including the guy that wrote the Georgia RICO book that you brought on as special counsel? You've got more special counsel.
Let me slow you down again, and I don't mean to interject too much. I'm trying not to turn this into a reboot of the fiery testimony this afternoon, but just to be clear, the lawyers for the Trump co-defendants, they did seem to think the ending mattered, the ending of this relationship. You're saying with regard to the disqualification, doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't matter. If it started either prior to or during, if the person was hired, there's, I think, bigger questions that we're dancing around. As we learned this morning, there was several other witnesses that they expected to have come in. People have moved to quash subpoenas. Some people have decided they're going to assert attorney-client privilege from cases from 3, 4, 5 years ago. We've gotten into a lot of bizarro type issues in this case as far as that goes, including the judge having to say, look, just because you talk to somebody doesn't make it attorney-client because they hired you for a reason. You can go have dinner with them and it's not attorney-client. And so their objections are flying fast and furious. And my whole position is, look, if you didn't do anything wrong, which is what the prosecution usually tells us, then just tell us everything. Give us the records. What's the issue? Why are we having this? Just come clean.
Okay.
Instead, we're doing the
Maya, let me.
thing.
I went to you a couple times. Yep, Maya.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of allegations. I certainly think if there's any evidence of wrongdoing, it's incredibly important to get underneath that. All I know right now is allegations about this, and I have no personal information or others about it. But let me just go back to the point. I mean, the issue here is whether or not there is evidence that supports that there is a prosecution happening here that should not be because of some impermissible reason, some personal interest. I do think it is incredibly important to remember there's a difference between an ethics law violation or a criminal violation if you're misusing your office and your power, and whether or not it is prejudicial to the defendants in terms of what is being alleged or charged. And I think that remains the question.